Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is take 2 on my March mid-month wrap-up. First one was just too long and I spoiled some books I did not mean to spoil, and so yeah, we're doing this again. Let's try to make it shorter. First book I finished was Please Don't Take Mommy Away by Maggie Hartley. I gave this one 5 stars. It's a true fostering memoir. Maggie takes in 2 little girls after they were left home alone. Only it's not what you think it is. Why they were left home alone. I'm not going to spoil it, but also, should I be saying mummy when I read those titles? Or should I be saying mommy because that's how I pronounce it? Because I feel like I'm mocking the British. So, I don't know. Anybody feel free to tell me if I'm mocking people. I'm just reading titles, I promise. But I feel like I'm mocking them. Because I don't have the accent or anything. Whatever. Anyway, 5 stars. It was a great read. Can't talk much about it. Next, I DNF'd The Penderwicks. Okay. I know this is a popular series. I know lots of people like it. Krista from Brooks and Jams talked about it, during their, middle grade March recommendations. Everybody kind of, it's in the same kind of book as the Vanderbeekers and the All of a Kind Family by Sydney Taylor series. It's 5 sisters all being together and all that, and their adventures. But, okay, I did not like the Penderwicks because they just weren't as united as the Vanderbeekers or the ones in the All of a Kind Family series. It was too much bossy older siblings, leaving little siblings out, that kind of thing. It's not what I read those kind of stories for. I don't want to watch you fight all the time. I want to watch you, be a team and work together and, I don't know. Maybe it's just the youngest child in me talking, but I kind of gave it up when the littlest kid was being sent to bed so that the older ones could have their, secret club without her. They have a secret club that's all the sisters, and then they have one without the littlest one. And I do get it. She's the youngest. There's a huge gap between them, and she's the baby, so they all baby her. But, I don't know. I just felt indignant on her behalf, and I didn't want to read any more of them bossing her around. So, sorry to everyone who likes the Penderwicks. But I do not like the Penderwicks. So, yeah. I DNF'd that. Then I read Echo by Pam Munoz Ryan. I gave this one 5 stars. I heard about this one from Amanda from On the Middle Shelf. Probably other people too. It's a pretty popular book. And Amanda is right, for the record. If you're going to consume this, do it on audio. And no offense to Braille Institute's copy, but this is one blind people do not get this from Braille Institute. Nothing against their narrator, but the commercial, the Audible one or whatever, you get it from Libby or whatever, that has actual harmonicas playing. There is so much, auditory stuff that the audiobook gives you that you're just not going to get from Braille Institute's copy where they just read the book, or from the print or Braille copy. You have to listen to it through, the Commercial Markets audiobook. It is amazing. Just the sound effects, and they play all this music with the harmonicas, so you can hear the magical harmonica. This is just one of those books that you have to spend money on. I'm trying really hard to not buy my books or, take advantage of the free services that I do get as a blind person through Braille Institute, but this is one exception. Anyway, I'll read the description. They just describe it better. Lost and alone in a forbidden forest, Otto meets 3 mysterious sisters and suddenly finds himself intertwined in a puzzling quest involving a prophecy, a promise, and a harmonica. Decades later, Friedrich in Germany, Mike in Pennsylvania, and Ivy in California each in turn become interwoven when the very same harmonica lands in their lives. All the children face daunting challenges, rescuing a father, protecting a brother, holding a family together. And ultimately, pulled by the invisible threads of destiny, their suspenseful solo stories converge in an orchestral crescendo. So yeah, it's really interesting because like each of these kids' stories, it's almost like reading through short stories. Each of them ends kind of abruptly, and a couple of them actually thought the kids were like gonna die. Like, and that's part of the magic of the harmonica. Like we were gonna see them reunited in heaven or something. That's not what happens. I'm not gonna tell you what actually happens in the end, but the way these stories come together is really interesting. But yeah, you have to like just go with it. You're going to find out all the answers to your questions by the end, or at least most of them. You're not going to be left hanging, because each of these stories really does kind of leave you hanging, but there is kind of an epilogue type where everything kind of comes together. But it's a really good book. Like, I see why people like it so much. So yeah, that's Echo. Then I read Focus by Allison Gerber. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right. I gave this one 5 stars. I heard about it from Amanda from Book Lover Amanda. I think she recommended it like last year and this year, if I'm not wrong. Anyway, that was her recommendation on Krista's middle grade March Rex video this year. So this one's about Clea. She basically can't focus, and it's kind of how she gets diagnosed with ADHD. And sort of her troubles in school and stuff. And it was really interesting because, like, you see how it really affects her, not just in school, but in life, because, like, she also can't keep certain thoughts to herself. So, like, there's this one point where she actually loses a friend because she blurts out, like, his personal information. And as much as I felt sorry for her, I felt sorrier for him in that moment. I'm like, you know what? Like, if he doesn't forgive you, I can't say I blame him. Like, I felt bad for her, but man, the things she blurted out for the entire school to hear, like, I would be holding the grudge until the day I died. But, I mean, I'm glad it ended the way it did, but, yeah, you really kind of get into her story and her struggles, and you see, the parents' perspective, kind of, like, how they're struggling with it. I didn't really like her mom too much. The one I actually liked was I think it was like her doctor. The one who like did the diagnosis and was like controlling her meds. She was my favorite. Amanda talked about loving her teacher, but I really love that doctor more than anyone else. I felt like we didn't see the teacher that much in comparison to like the doctor who was kind of explaining everything to the parents. Or was it a psychiatrist? I can't remember. But like I kind of loved that she made the parents accountable for their screw-ups throughout the book too. Like, she kind of almost made them apologize to her and like made them include her in things that, they were just prepared to be like, yeah, you're the kid, and if we have to shove medication down your throat, we will. That's kind of when I was like, yeah, you guys can take a hike. I don't like you. I was more okay with the dad than the mom. But to be fair, the mom was under a lot of stress too, because what Amanda never really mentioned when she talked about this book was the sister. It's not just Clea that's suffering. She has a little sister who's like got speech issues and stuff, and woof. I think that one drew my attention more than Clea did, because she's just really sweet and shy, and like actually wanted to hear more about her. And her teacher sounds way worse than any of these teachers that Clea has. So I kind of want a sequel just about her. Or something. Anyway, I really did enjoy this book. I gave it 5 stars. So, yeah. Thanks for the book rec, Amanda. Then I read My Secret Sister by Lauren Westwood. I gave this one 4 stars. This is the one that I spoiled in my last attempt to do a wrap up, so I'm going to try really hard not to. Basically, these 2 sisters... Wow. Kind of a spoiler, but it's in the back cover. 2 women. Anna Marie. I'm losing their names. So Claire is the older one, and her daughter is sick. And so she basically needs a bone marrow transplant, and she can't find a match. So Claire turns to a charismatic geneticist for help, and basically she embarks on a genetic journey to look for a family member for her daughter to get a bone marrow test. Mary Ann. I don't know where I got Anna Marie. Lord. That's the other woman. She is suffering from infertility issues, and she wants to do a genetic journey to basically help her get a baby. Have a baby, so to speak. So, yeah. So it's kind of, what the sister wants from Claire. You know, once they find out they're sisters, they both each want something from the other. Claire wants, Marianne's bone marrow, and Marianne wants, well, I guess this isn't too spoiler. It's kind of obvious, right? She wants an egg. She wants a donor egg to have a baby. So, like, Claire is pretty upset about that, you know, but, you know, at the same time, she's kind of has to call herself a hypocrite because it's not like she's reaching out to Marianne for selfless reasons. She wants something from her. So, I don't know. I gave this book 4 stars because it was compelling enough that I had to finish it, but nobody was likable except the kids. Like, these adults sucked. Because, like, at the end of the day, they were willing to, like, make terrible choices. And in the end, it felt like they didn't learn anything. I'm not going to say how, but the same mistake is repeated at the end of the book. You see the epilogue, and the same mistake is kind of repeated with the next generation. So it's like, did you learn nothing from this ordeal? Like, secret keeping, parentage, and stuff like that. Like, you know, we had to watch Claire kind of grapple with the fact that her father had, like, a separate family and was a cheater, and, you know. So, like, it was just annoying because these people just learn nothing. But at the same time, it was super compelling, and I wanted Jessica, the sick kid, to get better. And I love Jessica's older sister, who's, like, really misunderstood, because Jessica's, like, the sweet, goody two shoes who always gets good grades and who's going to be a violinist, and, you know. Like, nobody cares about the other one, because she's just, well, in their eyes, a delinquent. So, yeah, I liked this book. I didn't love it. I'm glad I read it, but, you know, it's not going to make my top 10. Then I read Adventures with Claudie by Britt Bennett. We're back to the middle grade. I give this one 4 stars. This is the second book in the Claudie American Girls series. I think the new modern American Girls books are only doing 1 or 2 instead of the 6-book format they used to have. I read this one for the Dolls of Our Lives podcast. They go through all the American Girl books and talk about them, and this one recently came out. So I read it. Can't really talk about it because it would spoil the first book. So, yeah, we'll just say that Claudie goes on a trip with her mom and learns about racism away from Harlem, where she currently lives. And Harlem is kind of a bubble of a place. So, a lot of bubble. Like, you still have racism, but, like, a lot of, like, the African-American population, like, they're more free there, I guess, than they are in, like, southern states. So, yeah, she gets pretty rude awakening there. Then I read The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I actually listened to this one on the way home from Tijuana, Mexico. It's a long car ride, so I decided to listen to that. I wanted something familiar, and I'd planned on reading it this month. You know that story, right? Mary, cranky kid, loses her parents, goes to live in Misselthwaite Manor, meets Dickon, Colin, the whole thing. It's the same. I loved it. Nostalgia, you know, all that. I'm probably going to watch both adaptations of the movie soon. And there's a movie called Return to the Secret Garden. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen it. I loved it when I was a kid, but never found it again. I want to look for it. It's like, I guess, anyway. Or it's Back to the Secret Garden. Return to the Secret Garden is a book I just read. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, the only thing that I kind of didn't necessarily love about The Secret Garden is just, like, obviously, you know, there's gonna be inappropriate references because it's a classic, it's an old book, but there are just I never noticed some of these references as a kid. Like, the way they talk about black people and, like, natives, and it's just really cringy a little bit. Now that we know better and we don't say those things. So you notice them more in, like, your old books. And in some ways, I almost wish I didn't notice, because it's, like, it takes you out of the story a little bit. But, you know, once you kind of get into the garden and you forget about all that, it's a good book. So, yeah, 5 stars. Then the reason I read A Secret Garden is because I wanted to read A Bit of Earth by Karuna Riazi. It is a Secret Garden retelling. I heard about it from Ashley from the Bookish Realm. I have to write that down before I forget to add her to my list to tag. Anyway, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. So it's about this girl. She grows up in Pakistan, Madia. It's actually pronounced Madia, but her name, like, it's spelled Maria, so people mispronounce it. So I'm going to pronounce it the way the audiobook pronounced it. So Madia has been bounced between reluctant relatives for as long as she can remember. First because of her parents' constant travel, and then because of their deaths. Madia has always been a difficult child, and it never takes long for her guardians to tire of her. So when old friends of her parents offer to give her a better life, quote unquote, in the United States, Madia is shipped to a host family across the world. When Madia arrives on Long Island, things are not quite what she was expecting. Mr. Claiborne has left on an extended business trip. Mrs. Claiborne seems emotionally fraught, and inexplicable things keep happening in the Claiborne's sprawling house. And then Madia finds a locked gate to an off-limits garden. Since she's never been good at following rules, Madia decides to investigate and discovers something she never thought she'd find, a place where she feels at home. So it just didn't have the same feel as A Secret Garden. I understand how it's a retelling, but I didn't like it in the same way. Like, I didn't get the nostalgia that you get from reading The Secret Garden. This one just felt like the girl was so crabby that, like, she made me not like her, really. The only one I really liked in this entire book was Mrs. Claiborne, because Mr. Claiborne and his mother are terrible to her. Like, she's miserable. It is so sad. And she kind of bonds with Madia a lot because, I guess she likes the way that Madia just kind of tells it like it is and isn't afraid to yell at people. But I just felt bad for Mrs. Claiborne because Madia was so mean to her. So, like, I don't know. I just didn't bond with her or with the eventual Colin replacement that is Mr. Claiborne's son. Like, he's worse of a jerk than she is. And they have their reasons, but they never endear themselves to me. There are some kids who are just so mean in books that, like, even when you understand why, you don't care because they're just insufferable. And that's how I felt about these two kids. Like, by the end, I just did not, like, I didn't care. I would just, like, stop being mean to this poor woman who's about to break down from the stress of taking care of both of you. I don't know. I didn't bond with them in a way I hoped I would with the Secret Garden retelling. And the garden was there, like, it was kind of the same story. It's Mr. Claiborne's wife's garden, and she dies, and he remarries, so he marries this new Mrs. Claiborne. And I think that's part of her depression. He hasn't gotten over his first wife. So basically, just imagine if Mary's uncle had decided to remarry and just kind of leave his wife to the mercy of Mrs. Medlock or something. Like, it's just, I don't like it. I don't know. Anyway, there's that one. 3 stars. Next, I read All the Impossible Things by Lindsay Lackey. I gave this one 5 stars. I love this book. It's been on my TBR forever. It's about this girl named Red. Well, her name is Ruby, but her mom calls her Red. And she goes to live with this family, the Grooves, who have a petting zoo. And they have, like, these exotic animals. Well, not exotic. They have, like, a donkey and a huge tortoise. She really falls in love with the tortoise. It's really funny the way she's like obsessed with this tortoise. But she also has power. So when she's upset, like it starts raining. Like she makes it rain and she causes like storms and tornadoes and stuff like that. And I mean, people are afraid of her, so she keeps getting bounced around. So she finally gets sort of settled in with the Groove family. And then her mother gets out of jail. Her mom has like a drug issue or something. Pills, I think. And anyway, so she's trying to get Red back. And yeah, you can imagine how that goes. So, yeah, it's kind of like her kind of having to grapple with her mom and whether she wants to live with her or not. You know, because she feels guilty because she knows she should want to live with her mom, but she also knows that she loves these people too, and part of her wants to stay with them. She is pretty prickly, but not as prickly as Madia in the last book, and she kind of grows out of it. She was very, she endeared herself to me with her prickliness. Like, the only thing I kind of have a little bit of a bone to pick with this book, which would make it 4.5 stars, but for Goodreads, I just give it a 5 because it's only a little gripe. And I mean, I'm curious if Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day has read it, because she's a foster parent, and she's read like a lot of books about foster care and like fiction and nonfiction, I assume. So I'm curious to know what she thinks, because my opinion, like my issue with this book, my only real issue is that they really went in to treat her like family right away. Not that I don't think they should have treated her like family, but like they were treating her like she was going to be staying forever and not like this was a temporary thing. And that kind of bugged me a little bit. Like, and I understand why it bugged Red and why she didn't want anything to do with them at first, because they were kind of like, you're our new daughter, this is your new sister. Like, it was too much of the like insta family they were trying to do. And I think that they kind of learned not to do that as much once they kind of realized how loyal Red was to her mom. They did end up backing off a little bit, you know, to give her and her mom a chance. So, you know. But still, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. So, you know, just the way that they were pushing the family thing too much. Oh, yeah. And let me just say, the other thing that annoyed me was that there was way too much... there were way too many animals. Like, I'm not an animal person, and there was way too much description of drool. Here's a line. She wiggled the dog's drooping lips with her fingers. A line of drool swung back and forth from Gandalf's jowls, like the little crystals Angel in Miss Anders' car. Can we not talk about swinging, slimy drool? Ugh. Like, I would never want to live in that house. Even though they're nice people, like, ugh, all that drool was giving me the heebie-jeebies. Other than the drool, it was a good book. Okay, I'm going back to my list here. I was trying to find a line that talked about drool. The next one I finished was The Last Book Wanderer by Anna James. I give this one 4 stars. It's the last book in the Pages & Co. Series. Can't really talk about it. Final battle type thing, you know, thus concludes the story. It was a good series. I enjoyed it. Next we have The War Orphan by Anna Stewart. I gave this one 5 stars. I love Anna Stewart. She is one of my new favorite historical fiction authors. This is her newest one that just came out last week. And I pre-ordered it, and I read it as soon as it came out. It was my treadmill book, actually. I decided to start reading a book, like listening to a book on the treadmill and only listening to that book on the treadmill so that it would motivate me to go. But that plan failed after 2 or 3 days when I got too invested to put it down. Anyway, it's about Natasha and her mom. And Natasha gets separated from her mom in Auschwitz. Her mom gets sent on a death march, and Natasha was supposed to go. And they said that she couldn't because she was a child. She was 16. So technically she could, but the Nazis were just being Nazis. So they locked her and the other kids up. And so her and her mom got separated. And, like, after the war, she gets an opportunity to go to England with the other kids for a better life. And she has to decide whether she wants to stay there or go with them. And she ultimately does decide to go with them, but, like, I was just, I mean, war is unfair, so I'm not going to complain about how the book ended, because you're not going to get, like, a perfect happily ever after in a war book, obviously. But the circumstances of the ending made me mad at how things turned out at the beginning. Like, there was this kid that was sort of pressuring her to kind of give up on her mom. And he liked her. You know, they sort of became an item. I can't remember his name. But his positivity was just annoying to me. And the only time he wasn't positive was when she kept, like, mentioning her mom and, like, how she wanted to find her and stuff. And he just wanted her to forget her mom so they could just have happy times. And he's like, she's dead. Can you get over it? She's dead. And then, like, by the end of the book, I'm not going to tell you how it ended. But let's just say that because of the ending, I ended up really disliking him for pushing certain views on Natasha. And things could have ended so differently if she had made different choices and he was a part of her making those choices. And I'm just not as forgiving as she is, because, you know, they lived happily ever after, kind of. Her and him, and I just, ugh. He made me so mad. Like, you know, he just wanted to forget the whole war, put it behind them. Like, he never wanted to talk about anything, and including finding her mom, because he just wanted them to have a fresh start and just forget everything that ever happened. And he just made me mad. So, yeah. Anyway, there's that one. Then I read Return to the Secret Garden by Holly Webb. I give this one 3 stars. I heard about this one from Keisha from A Book Like You. I don't remember if she read it or not, but I remember she talked about wanting to read it. I liked it okay. But there was... This is another book I almost spoiled, that I kind of spoiled in my last take. Certain things that I did not like that I can't really talk about. They're just... Okay, so it's about this girl named Emmy, and it's 1939, and a group of children have been evacuated to Misselthwaite Hall. So that's going to be the new orphanage because of the bombings in London. Like, we're talking, this is World War II. And so she goes to Misselthwaite Manor, and she ends up in a room, and she finds a diary, and she basically finds all the secrets of the secret garden, and we kind of start to realize who the different people that are living at Misselthwaite Hall are from the diary entries. I mean, anyone who's read The Secret Garden will figure out who each one is. But Emmy doesn't realize that she's actually talking to the people that she's reading about. So it's really interesting. But I think one of the things that bothered me was one of the kids. He was a jerk. I understand why, but he was, again, another one of those, like, really mean kids who, like, you know why they're being mean, but it almost doesn't matter because they're just so annoying. But yeah. The other thing that sort of bugged me was the diary itself. Mary could barely write in The Secret Garden. How in the world was she recording every single thing that happened to her in Misselthwaite Manor? The kid couldn't even dress herself at the beginning of The Secret Garden. Like, do you honestly think she was sitting down at the end of the night in meditation with her pen and little diary writing about the happenings at the manor? Yeah, right. There was even a scene where Martha had to go get pen and paper to write to Dickon. Like, Mary didn't have a diary. So it was just like a convenient plot device that for some reason just really annoyed me because it didn't make any sense with the story. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to read The Secret Garden and then read this in the same month because The Secret Garden was too fresh. Anyway, now onto the last book, The Doll People by Anna Martin and Laura Goodwin. T, that's her YouTube name. She talked about these books. I had completely forgotten they existed, and I love them, so I want to read them again. And so this is the first one. Annabelle Doll is the protagonist. She is part of a China doll family who live in Kate Palmer's bedroom, and her sister Nora has the Funcraft family. They're new dolls that come to town, that come to the Palmer house at the beginning of the book. So Annabelle, before the Funcrafts arrive, is just lonely in her house. She doesn't have a friend. And then the Funcraft family arrives for Nora, the little sister. And they're plastic dolls, so they get to do a lot more things. And so Annabelle and Tiffany Funcraft become friends, and the big mystery is, where is Auntie Sarah? Because Auntie Sarah disappeared like 50 years ago or something from the dollhouse. Apparently she used to like escape the dollhouse when the people were asleep. Did I mention if the dolls were alive? That's what they're called, the doll people. Like, there's a whole code of conduct that you have to agree to. And if you're seen by humans, you can go into permanent doll state, which means you become a regular doll. So, yeah. It's their adventures trying to find Auntie Sarah. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I gave this one 5 stars. Hold on. What is wrong with my phone?
Speech on. Tape near right edge. Stop recording video. Centered. One phase centered. Speech off.
Anyway, I don't know what it wanted. But yeah. So yeah, that was my last book. I think this take was a bit better, so I'll actually post this one. I'm gonna do... Okay, what is happening? I'm getting notifications, but I can't hear them because the speech on my phone is off. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna do my What I Added to Goodreads the first half of March in a couple of days, once I've gotten that video together. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. As I've said in a few videos, I'm hoping to get to at least 100 subscribers by June. I'd be happy with more, but I'll take 100. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Speech on.